Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 303. Iliya here. You know the drill. We're gonna have a look at the market right now, how it developed this week, what kind of setups we had, and of course try to draw some forecasts and some key levels for next week. So without further ado, let's check out the economic calendar, talk about the current situation, and then get into the technicals. So looking at the news, of course, before we start, it's very important to mention that the US government has shut down right now, and basically a lot of governmental workers are laid off, and the people that actually do the news releases, I guess, they're also laid off. And currently we didn't get NFP this Friday, and what I can see right now is that the NFP right now is scheduled to be released this Friday, the incoming Friday, but it's once again tentative, okay? Now, there are certain news releases that are not tentative, so I'm not really sure. But anyway, on Monday, we have speeches from Bank of England and ECB, which is great. Can bring in some volume for the euro and the pound. Tuesday, another speech here from Lagarde. Wednesday, we're having some NZD cash rate, actually, Bank of Japan speech. And then we have the FOMC meeting minutes, which sometimes it is volatile, but a lot of times it's not because it's just like the release of the minutes. And then here, Thursday also looks pretty interesting right now because we have unemployment claims 1 and unemployment claims 2. So what's the difference? I don't know. And then we have a speech from Powell here that can definitely shake the market. And then, of course, on Friday, again, we have the NFP. And here, consumer sentiment, inflation expectations as well. So the market is kind of really tricky right now because we're not getting these news releases. But, of course, the market is still reacting to that government shutdown. So it's a very tricky situation to be trading it. And I don't know what to say about the news, right? Of course, seems like we are in another NFP week right now if that thing is going to get released. Apart from that, there is nothing much to be worried about. There are some speeches here and there. Thursday has unemployment claims that is scheduled. So let's see if it's going to get released. So yeah, nothing much to worry about the economic calendar. But currently, it is very important to be monitoring the news outlets for any information regarding the government shutdown. Fanatics, I spent 1.5 months putting together the Fanatic Bootcamp that is designed to help you exit the break-even stage with just 2 simple tools and 6 hours of content. Now, if you have been loving how I analyze the market in the weekly outlook, if you have been loving how I trade and how I think about the market, this is really going to show you everything that I do for an extremely small price. So we're going to be working on your mindset first, fixing your mindset, your limiting beliefs, and exiting your emotional cycles. Then I'm going to be giving you the 2 tools that I use, only 2 tools, so you're going to actually know what I'm doing in these weekly outlooks. And then, of course, I'm going to give you the process and the mechanics for it so you can actually build it into a trading plan. So if you're interested, first link in the description, click on it, and I'm going to see you on the other side. As usual, we're going to get started with the DXY, and you know, recently I have been reverse engineering starting from the 4-hourly time frame based on my analysis that I did last week to see how the market played out based on my expectations, and then of course having a look at what we can be doing next week. So we kind of had all of these daily bullish imbalances, and again, as I said in the previous outlook, it's like, okay, so we have been pretty bearish in terms of the macro market structure. So is that going to be another lower high? Like how I use market structure right now is just zooming out and seeing like overall, okay, the sellers are in control. So if I'm looking for any sort of buys, I would be very careful. And we can see we had all of these daily bullish imbalances. This one is old. The market destroyed the first one, and it actually immediately on market open, it started giving us bearish signs with bearish imbalances here, okay? And then it actually made another bearish imbalance here. So it kind of was pretty bearish in control until we tapped this daily imbalance. And then since we tapped that daily imbalance here, the market just got a little bit erratic here. So we had 2 days up until Thursday New York session when suddenly it expanded without any sort of news. And then even this is kind of not following through. So honestly, this week we had the webinar with my team where we break down every single opportunity during the week. We kind of do a large case study. This week, very dry, very dry. I haven't traded any currencies or any golds. I did take some very nice trade on the futures side on ES, but GXY, again, you can see the weekly time frame. It's an inside bar actually of the previous one. So can we expect the breakout? Yes, potentially next week. And then we drop to the daily, which is currently very compressed and very 50-50. Now, what you see happening here is we're having a daily bearish imbalance forming, suggesting that there are some potential sellers participating here in a drop, but then we're tapping into that daily bullish. We're also having the order block here, these last two sell candles before the pop. So you can see we're pretty squeezed between these two levels, okay? And of course, we're gonna have a lot of liquidity. So we're gonna have liquidity here above that swing point, and we're gonna have liquidity below the swing point, and then of course, we're gonna have liquidity below the previous weekly low, which is going to be here, and of course, above here, right? So do you see how many lines, right? And it's pretty hard right now to say where we're gonna go, especially judging the current situation that has a lot of uncertainty, right? This government shutdown, it should technically be bearish for the dollar, but again, like this is why I'm not a very big fan of reading these fundamentals, is that price is not always going to react based on the fundamentals, and price is always pricing in the fundamentals before they actually happen. If it's not like a very flash news release that nobody expected, then you're gonna have a very big volume. So then you can see right now the DXY is stuck between a daily bullish, stuck between a daily bearish. We're having a hourly bullish here. That hourly bullish got stopped, reacts, breaks the reaction, prints a hourly bearish here as well. This to me, it is a absolutely 50-50 market, okay? When you see the market stuck between a daily bullish and a daily bearish, when you see the market making hourly bullish, failing, and then hourly bearish, this is how I personally define a consolidation, okay? I have defined what a consolidation and what a trending market is in my bootcamp, which is the first link in the description, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint, right? So if you have a bullish imbalance that is invalidated by a bearish imbalance, and then that bearish imbalance also fails, that is a consolidation because there is no sign of a trend, there is no order flow, okay? So you either get a consolidation that doesn't create any imbalances at all, or you get a consolidation that it's kind of volatile, but it doesn't really pick a direction. So what can I say right now about the DXY? Absolutely nothing. So I even don't know how to make my forecasts this week. So of course, like that can fail, it can drive us higher. This can hold here and drive us maybe lower. The market can open and expand lower to take the liquidity. And then what is going to happen afterwards? I don't know. Okay, so honestly, pretty choppy. And I am just going to apply my main principle, which is to flow with the markets. And I'm going to wait to see some sort of intention, the market breaking above, the market breaking below. I genuinely don't care because I just want to see trend. I just want to see direction. And then I'm potentially going to forecast the weak points. Now, if I truly see that daily bullish imbalance fail right now and the market starts trending lower, that is going to be my target. If I see this daily bearish imbalance fail, then this is going to be my target. Okay. So basically these two key levels are the main thing that I'm going to be watching for. So if the market breaks, we can target the high. If the market breaks, we can target the low, because again, currently we're stuck between two daily order flow ranges is what I call them. So whichever one fails, it's going to target the weak low or the weak high in this case. So let's see, that is the DXY. We're absolutely stuck right now. So let's wait for some volume to kick in and then we're going to flow with it. Well, EUR/USD pretty similar to the DXY, pretty big chop. So again, we started on Monday by immediate bullishness. And in fact, the very first thing that the market did was provide a pretty nice long here. So we had that hourly bullish. So the market was tapping into the daily bearish, but we had a hourly bullish. So a little bit of a 50-50 setup, honestly, that long. But then from here, we actually had a beautiful expansion into the higher daily, okay? And then pretty much, yeah, since we tapped into that daily, again, this is kind of my first overall scenario where we pop above, pull back, higher low, into an imbalance. So that was textbook. And then we tap into the daily. And then what happens afterwards, we don't know. And what ended up happening is a massive consolidation. All right. So again, my analysis is probably going to be pretty similar to the DXY. Here we can see again an inside bar in terms of the weekly. So nothing much to extract. Of course, we're coming from a massive weekly sweep here. Okay. So that is kind of still relevant. Also here, we made a very, very, very small daily bullish imbalance. So again, we have that stuckness between a daily bullish and a daily bearish. And yeah, you can see then we drop here. That daily imbalance got tapped once, got tapped twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And if I drop it like that, it still looks like it's acting as a very strong resistance level. However, how I interpret myself the imbalances is I would potentially delete the imbalance when it gets tapped. And then I'm just going to work with the swing points. Okay, because I believe, like a lot of people believe, and they even draw the imbalances. Again, there is nothing right or wrong, like nobody knows. But they would draw, for example, a gun box like that. Okay, and even have all the levels. So like 75 and 25, they would say, okay, the imbalance is first going to fill the open. then the 25, then the 50, and then the whole thing, and then it's fully filled. Like, according to me, that can definitely be a nice theory. But then basically from one imbalance, you're getting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zones to be trading from, which is not great. Okay, and then I just work with liquidity. So first time the market swept, second time the market swept again, so there are still sellers kicking in. However, then we just consolidated, and then similar here we had a hourly bearish imbalance that actually failed. Now, why did that bearish imbalance fail? Well, because we're tapping into a bullish one on the daily, which is a hard time frame. And yeah, we ended up the week by taking this liquidity point here. So we are, wow, goddamn, this is so stuck. Like, this right now doesn't have liquidity to take because it already took it here on Friday. And it also doesn't have a zone to retest to potentially get a trade from. Wow. Haven't seen the chopper market in a while, especially on the major currencies that were so volatile. So here, the only thing I can say is I'm just gonna wait for Monday to pass and give me some information. So this is not committing to the downside. It is not committing to the upside. So again, like you can drop in that case only your liquidity levels. So that is a liquidity level here, and that is a liquidity level here. And then below that, you're looking at this low. Okay, so where is the market going to start guiding you right now? Because when that hourly bearish imbalance fails, the origin of that hourly bearish imbalance is that high. That high got taken. So the market failed imbalance, so it rebalanced. It did not go for liquidity on the lows. Failed imbalance, go to liquidity on the highs. Again, I teach this in the bootcamp in great detail. All right, if you want to understand how that moves. But right now, as we have taken liquidity, the market is going to be looking to rebalance something, but there is nothing to rebalance. So I can say it's going to attack another liquidity point. Is it going to be the one above, right? Or is it going to be the one below? And then what happens after we take out these liquidity points? Are we going to break above and continue? Are we going to break below or continue? Or are we going to sweep and reverse? Sweep and reverse, okay? We don't know. So pretty unclear, very unclear Euro USD, very unclear DXY. I am personally going to be giving it some time to play out and truly show me where it wants to go and what it wants to do. GBP USD, honestly not bad. I mean, we had these hourly bullish imbalances here at the closure, and then my overall outlook was, okay, we have a pullback into that hourly bullish imbalance and rocket. And then we had, for example, this daily bearish one, but we can see the market, the first thing that the market did immediately hourly expansion, and what it did after the expansion is create new hourly bullish imbalances, okay? So here I said, okay, one of the scenarios would be to, for example, come into the hourly, come then into the daily, and then from the daily potentially sell off. But did you see any signs of a sell off from that daily? No. Comes in, right? Hourly bullish imbalance, they just pulled back into it. This is the second scenario. Okay, we break above that daily, we pull back and we target the next daily, all right? We break the daily, pull back into 4H and target the next daily. So I think here, pretty nice. Actually, some of my community members did capitalize on these GU shorts. And then, yeah, since then, it also got a little bit chopped up. Now, if I go to the daily time from here, what I actually did like about GU and why I kind of hinted that maybe it's actually going to be better than EU to my community on Friday is because it is a little bit more bearish. All right, so here we're having also very, very, very small daily bullish imbalance. So again, you always have to be looking at those details because there is a little zone, but I'm not gonna draw it because it's gonna disappear like that. But yeah, we're tapping into this daily, candle 1, candle 2, candle 3. We're not failing that daily yet, but of course, if we fail it, this is gonna be the next target, and above that target, we're gonna have this daily bearish. Okay, so yeah, then of course I have to work with the hourly time frame, which is also super tricky. Okay, and what I see right now is happening is we also similar to EU. All right, similar to EU, we tapped into that hourly, we reacted, we broke the reaction here, which indicates that the hourly imbalance is failing. Okay, so then according to my market understanding, this should be the target right now. Okay, and towards that target, we're actually starting to show a little bit of momentum in the form of that hourly bullish imbalance. All right, so this is my board. All right, so if I am to give an outlook here, I would say something like this would look good, right? The market does not necessarily need to tap that hourly. It can just go because market opens sometimes tend to be volatile. But I would just say something like that, okay? And attack the liquidity. And then after the liquidity gets taken, again, it's going to be very important to see where the imbalances are going to guide you, because every single week I tell you guys, right? Don't just jump on a Monday, right? Wait to see where the market is going to guide you, right? So in that case, you could have definitely taken a long on Monday, but you could have absolutely taken a long later on, because the market continued to give you the imbalances to show you where it wants to go. And eventually it went, okay? So that is my GU. Now, am I long bias on GU? EU was super 50-50. And you can see EU already failed that fall imbalance and already took the liquidity. GU did not. So that suggests that GU is actually weaker. So if we happen to have a sell-off, the sell-off on GU will be better because GU tends to be a little bit weaker right now. So these are my two scenarios, okay? That kind of this volatile bullish imbalance is actually going to be the determinant of what happens. If that gets taken, we'll attack this liquidity here. And then after that liquidity, if we create volatile bearish imbalances, I'm going to be looking for the next liquidity target down there, okay? And of course, I have the bullish scenario that it takes the liquidity. And then after that liquidity, are we going to head for the higher ones? We're going to see, okay? So up until now, not an extremely clear bias. I don't have enough confidence and confluences to call out a specific bias because the DXY is extremely choppy. EU is a little bit mixed up. GU is also mixed up. It kind of looks bearish in terms of the daily, all right? But we seem like we tried to commit, but we still fail that commitment. So it also makes me think like it might want to also pop higher. So again, I wait for Monday to open and I'm going to flow with the market. Aussie dollar is a amazing example of why you should never marry a setup and why you should always just very simply flow with the market, okay? Here again, I could have said, all right, daily bearish imbalance, the market is going to pull back into that daily bearish and it's going to sell off, okay? But no, I said, okay, we're coming to the daily. Let's wait to see signs if it's going to go lower, or we push, we pull back and we go towards that liquidity point. Look at the market, right? It opened up, it taps into that daily. Do you see any reaction from that daily? Right? No. And what the market does, it prints a volatile bullish. Now that is your fresh price action. That is your fresh momentum in the market. What do you see later on? Another one. All right. So is that telling you that, hey, this daily imbalance is holding? Absolutely not. It's telling you the opposite. This bearish push here is right now turning weak. Okay. And the origin of that daily bearish push, actually the origin of that daily bearish push is this one. I mean, isn't this amazing, right? This is my market dynamic, right? I teach this in the bootcamp and so many members, I've received so many emails of people like getting crazy win rates and crazy understanding of the market just by a $27 bootcamp, right? It's incredible because you look at the recent momentum and then as you start seeing this zone fail, you can immediately forecast if that whole thing is right now failing to push price lower, then it's going to become liquidity. And that was this is the origin, that is the swing point that created that daily bearish imbalance. And when that daily bearish imbalance fails, that becomes the target. And how you can trade into that? Volatile. Trade number one, trade number two. There must be a trade number three right there somewhere. That was some crazy wick here, but eventually we fulfilled the target. Okay. And this is why, once again, everybody, a lot of you don't like this. Oh, he's not doing any analysis. He's not telling us where the market's going to go. Well, you're never going to know where the market's going to go. And nobody can tell you that. And if you listen to people that are making forecasts and like telling you it's going to go here, it's going to go there, watch this level 66.60, we're going to go 66.60, you're going to keep staying stuck in a very big loop. Okay. So with my rant over, I get excited over these things, you know. Let's have a look. Weekly time frame, absolutely nothing. We actually came in to take out the previous weekly high, which is not bad. And on the daily time frame, we're getting that recent bullishness. Now, is this recent bullishness going to sustain? That is the question for Aussie dollar. We just took out liquidity and we didn't close very clearly above that liquidity, okay? We don't have any struggle areas on top. And we just tapped into this first daily and we had an inside bar on Friday. Okay, so we are at a pretty nice decision point here, okay? Now, you can also see into that daily, we're having a volatile bearish imbalance, and that volatile bearish imbalance hasn't failed yet. According to my rules, this is not a failure yet. We don't have a break of reaction. We don't have a double rejection failure. Again, this is not a failure yet. So the levels I'm going to be watching is this level here, of course, and then if that volatile starts holding, liquidity number one, liquidity number two, and liquidity number three is going to be the daily imbalance, okay? So once again, everybody, I'm not going to tell you right now, oh, it's going to go up. I don't know if it's going to go up, but I'm going to know where it's going to go after the market opens. If it starts guiding me lower, I'm going to look to short. If it actually comes and breaks that reaction, I'm going to drop to 1 hour and 50 minutes and I'm going to chase it into the liquidity. Okay. In fact, if I want to be more precise, this is the actual liquidity because that is the origin of the bearish push. And if the bearish push fails, which we're starting to get a little bit of signs of it failing, but it's not failed yet. Okay. So if it actually fails completely, liquidity number one, but then liquidity number two is pretty close by, so I think they both can get taken. Okay, so that is Aussie dollar. I like the longs a little bit more because if you look at the macro market structure as well, we have been bullish, right? So what I'm kind of doubting on the short term, I always zoom out a little bit and then I see, okay, buyers are overall in control. That's very good. Higher low on the weekly as well. That is very good. So right now, if I see the forward time frame truly pick up the steam, then we can potentially go higher. And then you can think about your next target. Okay. Then we can say, yeah, the next target then could potentially be this level. That is this 66.60 that I said. Okay. But that is too far away. Okay. So that is Aussie dollar. Let's wait to see. Key level to watch is that one. The other key level to watch is that one. Let's see who takes control. And then we're literally going to flow with it. I mean, isn't this crazy? NZUSD was the only pair that I had a one-sided bias. I said, well, here, weekly time frame, absolutely bearish. Daily time frame, beautifully bearish. Daily imbalances, amazing. Hourly time frame, looking pretty good to pull us back here and sell off. Look at it. Absolutely beautiful uptrend, right? This is why every time, everybody, have your two scenarios and don't marry a setup, okay? We tapped into that daily, sure, but how we tapped into it with a hourly bullish. Now here you could have maybe taken a stop loss because likely you probably got some sort of a setup on that bearish push. However, then the market actually breaks that reaction, okay? And it breaks it with an imbalance, breakaway gap, so we're not going to expect for it to fill in. So what does that tell you is that, okay, well, guess what? This here is liquidity. Why? Because that is the origin of that bearish push that failed, okay? And then the market goes on into the next liquidity target. That is this daily imbalance, which is where we are at right now. So we're coming in here in that higher daily bearish. And we don't have a daily bullish. So this week, actually, NZUSD spent the week pulling back. Okay. We actually have a weekly bearish here. And we just formed another weekly bearish. That could be a very relevant zone for right now. We're just tapping into that daily bearish, but just above us there is the weekly bearish as well. And then dropping onto the forward time frame. Yeah, this one is a very 50-50 market right now. This is, again, as I explained on the Euro USD, I believe, the explanation of a consolidation. Forwardly bullish failing, forwardly bearish failing, forwardly bullish, don't trade. Okay, waiting for the market to pick up some steam. So here again, I would say, again, I'm a little bit more bearish biased, just judging by the higher time frames. Okay, is this all a corrective pullback in order for the market to sell off right now? Probably, maybe, who knows? Okay, we have that weekly imbalance above us. So I'm very interested to see if the market is actually going to gravitate towards that weekly and then give us the entry model to potentially go down. Okay. If it doesn't want to go there, then of course I would look for some sort of a bearishness, okay? I would look for a bearish imbalance to form to start guiding me lower. And then of course I can start targeting all the liquidity points, liquidity. All these swing lows are potentially going to become liquidity if the sellers come in, okay? And of course, you might have a completely bullish scenario. Maybe this one taps into the weekly, right? Reacts and then invalidates the reaction and then goes into the higher weekly, because the market always moves from level to level. And your job as a trader is to literally see, is this level going to hold or not? That is where the entry model comes in. So if you don't get an entry model, then again, you're like, what I used to do in the past is like, if I get my zone and I don't get an entry model, I stop looking for anything. But what I understood throughout building my market mechanic model, all right, that I can actually trade the failures of my zones and target the opposing liquidity. That gives you another opportunity to trade and flow with the markets, okay? So that is NZD/USD. Again, no clear bias. I'm not worried, but this recent bullishness here is interesting. So I really need to see the 4-hourly time frame pick up that bearish steam before I participate into any shorts. As for longs, I think there is a lot of resistance for longs because we have a weekly bearish here, a weekly bearish here. But if you start getting like some longs like that, you can definitely look to target the higher weekly. So let's see. Damn, that was a dry week on goals. Like, it looks like it moved a lot, but honestly, it didn't offer me personally a single setup this week. Now, look at all the markups I have here, because coming into pretty much into Monday, we were stuck at a pretty decisive point. And you can see here I have written decisive 4-hourly imbalance, okay? And then I even went to the 1-hourly time frame, which I don't do in the weekly outlooks, and say, okay, if that 4-hourly time frame, the decisive one, gives us the failure, we target the week low. If it actually holds, we target all-time highs, okay? Look, So this is an absolutely perfect example of how I trade gold right now as a specialist on gold, because we have two trading plans in my program, right? One is called the Scout Sniper. That's the guy who trades, for example, 3 to 4 pairs. And one is the specialist who focuses on one pair only and he absolutely milks it. Okay. Here, there we go. Taps in, fails, all-time highs. And then since then, it went higher. Unfortunately, if you have a look at the sessions, okay, this happened during Asia. And then we had an absolute chop. Then again, we had another trending Asia on Tuesday, a massive drop in London. So I didn't trade in New York. There was like a little long setups here. I had a community member who took this long here, which was pretty nice actually. Then here again, we had an expansion during London and a reversal. So I didn't trade because we're all-time highs. Then here on Thursday, it was also tricky. There were no longs offered towards all-time highs. It was very choppy, then it dumped. And then on Friday, I had my community trading a 1 hour zone from here for towards that liquidity, which was not bad. But I mean, there were some setups here and there, but nothing really that I personally liked. So yeah, gold continues. All-time highs after all-time highs, weekly imbalance after weekly imbalance. There we go, another one, right? Another one. When are we gonna pull back? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive weeks? Crazy. Daily bullish imbalance right now that we're tapping into. However, if you look at the closest details, this daily imbalance is no longer relevant. Why? Because if you check it out, it got tapped right here and it already took the liquidity, all-time high. So that imbalance is gone. All right. And then basically what we're trading right now is very similar to what happened on EU. We're having a fourly bearish imbalance that can potentially guide us lower. It tries and then it breaks it here, okay? And then basically right now, all-time highs is the actual liquidity because this bearish push here is supposedly weak and we can be targeting all-time highs, all right? We have another fourly bullish imbalance. Now on gold, I'm never certain, but judging how the market has been developing in the last few months, Mondays just opens and it just absolutely goes crazy, right? Gold steady every single Monday, right? That Monday was absolutely crazy. The previous Monday here, absolutely crazy, just continues all-time highs. Whereas the previous Monday here, absolutely crazy as well. So being so close to all-time highs and the liquidity and already having the narrative for the market taking this as liquidity, I just think that it's gonna pop all-time highs in Asia and then that's it. Okay, so I have been pretty irritated with gold because it started moving a lot during Asia and it even started moving a lot during London, and then New York kind of becomes a little bit dead. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of a slow period on gold, both in terms of trades, and last month I actually missed a couple of winners and then took some losses. So not amazing performance, but of course it is what it is. We keep showing up and we keep waiting. So that is gold right now. I would say all-time highs to me is a pretty clear target. If we happen to potentially pull back here, although I don't think so, then you can potentially also look for a long. But I would say if we take all-time highs, then it's always just a very big uncertainty because we don't know, is it going to continue expanding above all-time highs? Is it going to massively reject like it did here or like it did here, for example? All right, we don't know. So if you can trade it towards all-time highs, great. And then after all-time highs, you have to wait. I would always prefer for gold to give me a pullback. All right, so give me a pullback so then I can target all-time highs as liquidity. Okay, it was like that here. We have a pullback, target all-time highs liquidity. We have a pullback right now, also target all-time highs liquidity. Beautiful pullback here, again targeted, because again you can see here we took all-time high with an imbalance above it. That's great, it can continue. Then pull back to retest the all-time highs and it continues. But here when we took, I'm starting to rant too much, right? But hopefully you're enjoying it. If we took liquidity here, all-time highs, no imbalances, then the market is going to give you a bigger dip. But there was also the daily imbalance that got tapped here. Again, liquidity, no imbalance above, goes a little bit lower. Okay, so that is how you can read potentially whether you would like to chase it above all-time highs or you would wait for a deeper pullback. So that is gold right now. Again, tricky positioning, very close to the all-time highs. I believe that Monday Asia is just going to take that out. And what happens afterwards? You got to flow with the market every single day, which I of course do for my community every single morning and every single afternoon. All right, goddamn. So USD JPY, I was also pretty I was bullish on that one and it just absolutely dumped like crazy. I had a few members that trade USD JPY during Asia. Beautiful short opportunity here, absolute dump. Beautiful short opportunity here, absolute dump. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful development on USD JPY. And again, right, just freaking flow with the markets. I had this bullish outlook here. I wonder why I gave just one, right? Sometimes I try to listen to you guys who want to see specific outcomes, but I'm just gonna listen to my principles, right? The market literally opens. The first 4 hours, expansion candle. The second 4 hours, imbalance. Who's in control? Sellers. Go to the 1 hourly time frame and find your short setup. Pull back into here, short setup into the next target. Okay, what happens into the next target? Again, 4 hourly bearish imbalance. Taps in, gives you the entry, massive flush. This daily imbalance here, tapped in, reacted, broke the reaction. Okay, what is the next target? The origin of that daily push. Pulls back, absolute dump. Okay, and then after that massive dump here, all right, there was a daily. This is what I call a reaction area. All right, and within that daily reaction area, there was also a smaller stacked 4 hourly reaction area below. So here you are getting into a little bit too much support, because the member that actually trades a lot of USDJPY asked me if I think shorting from here is a good idea, and I told him no, because we're tapping into a lot of support levels right now, and kind of we already had the lower high move, so enough moves already. And you can see then pretty much towards Wednesday, Thursday, the market initiated a little bit of a pullback. However, we're getting a lot of massive bearish pressure, but guess what, everybody, right? This is what the market makes you think right now. Oh, heavily bearish. We are gonna die right now. We're gonna go and take out all of that massive lows. Always flow. All right, always flow, because you can see whenever I have a one-sided outcome, the market immediately proves me wrong. Okay, now dropping here on the 4 hourly time frame, there is not a lot of information. There are no imbalances. There is nothing up, nothing down. It's kind of a consolidation. But again, everybody, right? Like, if you can learn one thing from me or from these outlooks, if you're watching them, right? Just freaking flow with the markets. Like, wait for the market to open and wait for it to show you where it wants to go, and you're gonna catch your 1 good trade or 2 good trades or 3 good trades per week. Okay, don't right now overthink and say, okay, all right, what is gonna happen? Daily's bearish, so we should go short. No. Okay, mark your liquidity levels. That is one liquidity level, and that is another liquidity level, right? Wait to see the 4 hourly time frame and who is going to take control. If you start taking control into the highs, then you target the next liquidity level. If we start taking control into the lows, right, then we target the lows right here. That's all you have to do, right? I could have done this within 15 seconds, but I spent 3 minutes analyzing it. Okay, that's it. Let's flow. I don't have a bias here, right? That could very easily be a higher low for the market to continue. That can very easily be the reversal for the market to dump. That could have just been the manipulation, just like it was here. Massive push up, massive flush. Massive flush, massive push up can be incoming. Okay, so always be open-minded, always expect both scenarios, always have your levels. Okay, wait for price to confirm where it wants to go, and then your job is very simple. Just find an opportunity and target your target. All right, that is USDJPY. Having a quick look at EJ, I see that I didn't have any markups right here because it was absolutely chopped up, so there was nothing to say. And right now I can see we're having a nice bearish week. Now, where is this taking us? The only kind of weekly liquidity I see is all the way down there. So are we going to go all the way down there? I don't know. Then the daily liquidity that I see is here. In fact, there is this one is also liquidity that got actually taken. Yeah, because we had that sell-off on the USD/JPY. Also, Euro Yen, for example, and GBP Yen were not that bad this week. And we're creating that these 3 heavy bearish imbalances. Now, again, is that a reversal? Or is that just a little bit of a liquidity collection in order for the market to resume the uptrend? Okay, so again, we have to wait and see whether that daily imbalance is going to fail. So for example, here, there is a very interesting exercise once again, where you have to just read the price action, okay? We're getting into that daily with a lot of 4 hourly bullish imbalances. So if these 4 hourly bullish imbalances hold, and we happen to have a body break above this reaction, next target is going to be this high, and that high perfectly overlaps with the upper daily imbalance. Okay, so 2 scenarios right here. Once again, we either break above here, that guide us into here, all right, or we either hold from that daily, we give a short entry models, and then we go for the liquidity on the bottom. Okay, so that is going to be Euro JPY. I mean, that recent selling pressure is good if USD JPY also continues to go down. And if Euro USD also gets a little bit... Now, why did EJ move that week? Because Euro USD was absolutely choppy and USD JPY absolutely dumped. Those are the best conditions to be trading these pairs. That is when you have an imbalance, right? GJ as well, massive flush. Why? Because GU is choppy and USD is down. Okay, so then you get that disbalance on these yen pairs. Okay, so that is your yen, but please, like, I even plan to stop analyzing them because that is like 6 minutes that the video could be shorter, so your attention span can be bigger. I don't trade these and I don't recommend to be trading these, but yeah, I still do them. So yes, as I just explained on Euro JPY, that this balance between UJ and GU in that case caused the market to drop very heavily and create that very nice disbalance to the downside. So let us have a look on the weekly time frame. We are taking, we're taking some very important weekly liquidity here. That's great. Going on to the daily imbalance, unlike EJ, this one is not making like as many daily imbalances as EJ. So EJ had 3, right? Yeah, so EJ created an imbalance every single day. This one just created 1. And right now it's coming back into that with a lot of steam. And on the hourly time frame, it's already creating a beautiful market structure shift here. And already the hourly order flow is holding, all right? So I can see right now that GJ is a lot stronger than EJ, all right? So if you're looking to trade long on something, then it better be GJ with a target here, okay? Hourly bullish imbalance, that looks like an absolutely textbook setup. Absolutely textbook, but if something happens on GU or if something happens on USD that pair will just, no matter how it looks, it's immediately going to react to what these other 2 major pairs are going to do. So again, if that fails, go for the lows. But I prioritize the longs. They look pretty good. There is nothing to stop it until that liquidity point. So let's see if it's going to build some bullishness. EJ is definitely weaker because EJ is encountering a daily bearish imbalance right now, while GJ does not have it. Okay, so if you want a long GJ, so yeah, let's see. But again, I don't touch these pairs because they are fundamentally designed not to move amazing. All right, let's have a look at futures. We're going to get started with ES, which developed very nicely, especially starting from Wednesday, and also Thursday was nice. I managed to pass 2 funded accounts right now with Apex, and I'm going to start working towards a payout. So September and October for me were pretty good, resulting in 2 passed accounts. So of course, let's have a look now. I mainly scalp these things. I don't scalp them, but I just don't do a lot of top-down analysis, but I'm still going to be applying my principles. So here again, like I was looking for the market to, so there is the market closure. I was looking for the market to pop literally to that liquidity point, pull back and give me long total time highs. Now this kind of happened. However, that pullback here that I wanted was a little bit bigger. Okay. So if we have a look in the daily time frame, there were no daily imbalances, so that was a little bit tricky. So we should have really flowed with the hourly time frame, and yeah, we could have definitely done that because the market kind of got choppy right here. Chop. There are no imbalances, so the market then, when there are no imbalances, it's gonna go from to liquidity, and then from liquidity to liquidity again. And this imbalance here was the decisive factor because we had like that bearish imbalance. But then I was like, well, okay, is that bearish imbalance really gonna guide us all the way down lower? I didn't think so, right? So I actually thought that this is manipulation. And then the market came in during London, responded from it. But then if you have a look pretty much at it, the market immediately started showing us signs that it actually failed. You can see here, candle 1, 2, 3 starting to fail. And then literally it drove us into all-time highs, which is where I took, it was an amazing day here. And then I took some shorts here on Thursday as well. So that was pretty good. Currently, we also don't have daily imbalances, which is always a little bit tricky. The last 2 days here are kind of rejecting around all-time highs. And all-time highs on any instrument, on the instruments that are actually making all-time highs, which are stocks and gold and index futures, okay? When you order all-time highs, it's always very tricky. Now, what I can say here is, reading in between the lines, is that here, we're having that fall imbalance that got tapped, and then we have a large wick. So you can then go to Explorer to actually see this fall imbalance got tapped. It's completed its objective, which is to go from rebalance to liquidity. So there was a beautiful long right here on Friday, okay? And then we dumped, okay? So if we're dumping right now and we don't have anything to rebalance, that is going to be liquidity number 1, which is the actual order flow range here that created that fall bullish imbalance. And right now, if we start guiding us lower, then that is going to be the next target. But unfortunately, we don't have any zones right now. So again, for futures, it's very hard to say what is going to happen. And in general, I can drop to the 1 hour and say, okay, we're having a 1 hourly bearish, but this bearish push here with that 1 hourly bearish means absolutely nothing. The market can absolutely just disregard that and continue to push towards new all-time highs. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have, like, we still have that weekly zone below, but we don't have a daily zone as well. We don't have a hourly zone. So kind of being a little bit zoneless right now, it is a little bit tough for me to make, like, okay, where it's gonna go, what it's gonna do. So again, as usual, I'm just gonna wait. I even don't do a lot of top-down analysis. I just show up at 9:30 and I start trading. Of course, I'm gonna have my zones predetermined before that, but I just trade. Okay, so let's see. Nothing to say. I kind of have a suspect that this here could be a liquidity target, but then if the market, for example, comes in and fails all-time highs, and if the market breaks below, target that low, and then what happens afterwards, I don't know. Beautiful all-time highs on Nasdaq as well. So a very similar development to ES. We pretty much opened up the week immediately with a lot of bullish pressure, taking out my first liquidity target right here. So Monday was a good day, too long. And then pretty much we had a little bit of a choppiness here. So getting into Tuesday, now the whole Tuesday was very choppy. I didn't trade. And then on Wednesday, it was started choppy. But then when we made that sweep, as I told you, and then we started seeing the failure of that hourly bearish imbalance, Wednesday was absolutely amazing. And then also Thursday was good. So yeah, overall, the market did tap into this daily imbalance here, rebalanced, and then it went towards the objective. That is all-time highs. Now, look, this is nice actually right now. Nasdaq has a daily bullish imbalance. That is very nice. We're tapping into that imbalance. However, we're tapping into that imbalance with a lot of bearishness. Okay, so when you have, this is what I call a supply and demand sandwich. Okay, I have very precise rules for this, how to tackle this. It's actually an entry model. You have 2 entry models here, and you can do 2 different things. Okay, but that is one of my biggest kind of secrets, so I'm not gonna share it here. Anyway, right, if I am just pretty, again, straightforward, you just gotta wait for, if you are long bias, you gotta wait for that to fail. And if you want to short from there, there is also a way to short, which is gonna show you that this daily bullish is also weak. And if that daily bullish is weak, that is gonna expose all the liquidity to the downside here, which I don't think is very likely, but it could definitely happen. Okay, so all we have to do right now is literally read the market. Like, let's see what it's gonna do. Is it going to tap into that hourly, disregard it, and attack the new all-time highs? Okay, that is scenario number 1. Is it going to tap into that SDS, hold, build bearishness, and attack the opposing? That's thing number 2. And then of course it can definitely just crush lower, or just crush higher, or just consolidate. Those are again all the rest of the scenarios that we can have. Okay, also we have here, for example, hourly zone, but that is also tapped, but it's also nested in the daily, so I'm not gonna draw it. So a very interesting situation for next week. I'm extremely curious. Are we gonna drop a little bit because we've been in all-time highs for a long time, or are we just gonna disregard that hourly and just continue to rock it? I don't know, but I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna trade it when it happens. All right, US30 is also making all-time highs, but again in kind of a choppy manner, like chop. Like meanwhile, Nasdaq and ES gave beautiful longs. This one was like choppy, and the Wednesday longs were not as big as they were on the rest of the instruments. But anyway, we are at new all-time highs. We don't have any weekly zones. We don't have any daily zones here. A very big compression, which is very nicely spiked above all-time high. So that is going to give us right now a very tricky positioning. But anyway, here we're having a hourly bullish imbalance, in fact. So that is quite different than the other 2. So are we going to tap into that hourly imbalance and then continue? Right? Continue higher for new all-time highs? Or are we going to disregard that hourly and start attacking like the liquidity, which is going to be liquidity 1 here, and then liquidity 2 here? Let's see. All right, so that is going to be my very quick US30, the Dow Jones, the YM futures, but I don't touch this one and I don't trade it and I don't look at it, okay, because it's kind of a strange thing to be trading. All right, so that is US30. And DAX, as I said last week, we were kind of stuck in a little bit of a consolidation, but I told you, like, let us wait for a clear breakout and then we're gonna get the long. There it is, right? So Monday opens, it sweeps again the high, but pulls back, creates a higher low formation. Okay, is there a daily imbalance there? Let's see. No, so no daily imbalance, unfortunately. All right, but then we break above clearly, right? We finally break above that swing point to the left. That is the major lower high with an imbalance. The market pulls back, and then since then it just absolutely rallied like absolutely crazy. and it's coming pretty close to the all-time high. So I guess if you want to be trading it next week, might be a good thing to do. Massive weekly candle after a lot of choppy days here, a lot of choppy days. And right now we're creating two daily bullish imbalances. That first one is actually looking pretty juicy for a pullback because we just took out this liquidity to the left here, and that can cause the market to give us a little bit of a pullback. Similar situation to Nasdaq, for example. We're having a daily bullish and a hourly bearish. Tap into the daily, tag, boom, right? Or tap into the hourly, daily, and reversal again. So I would say long bias, of course. If the market disregards that daily and comes into the lower one, then of course you have to be flowing with the market, because maybe we get some, for example, some bearishness as well, and the market disregards these daily bullish. But I think getting so close to all-time highs, I read in the news that the Europe companies are starting to get pretty good. The stocks index is also going pretty good for Europe. I see some companies like ASML, for example, gaining lots of traction. So I think it's probably time we tap all-time highs on DAX. So let's see. All right, so to recap, basically the USD pairs right here are a little bit consolidative right now, stuck between daily bullish, daily bearish, hourly bullish, and hourly bearish. So I really need to see, especially on the DXY, some clear direction to guide me towards the next liquidity points. Euro USD, exactly the same. We have been consolidating, stuck between different zones. I need to see direction. GU also the same, although GU is giving me a little bit more of a long setup. However, that long setup already happened on EU here. So it kind of gives me a little bit of a 50-50 feeling as well. Aussie dollar and NZD dollar also kind of, this one is looking pretty strange. We're having a daily bullish, hourly bearish. The market is reacting from the bearish. So is it going to overtake it to target the highs, or is it going to hold to target the lows? NZD USD has a weekly bearish imbalance that can potentially tap and reject, or maybe immediately flush, or maybe give us again, like the last week, just a clear uptrend. Gold is also very tricky right now, in a very tricky position, being very close to all-time highs and already printing a bullish setup. I just feel like it's gonna pop the highs, and then of course what's gonna happen afterwards, we don't know. USD JPY, what an absolutely beautiful week. Right now we're tapping into a daily bearish imbalance. So is it gonna hold? We want to see, and if it breaks above that high, then we can target the next liquidity area. Euro JPY also, because Euro USD consolidated and USD JPY flushed. Euro JPY was pretty heavily bearish. Right now we're starting to build a little bit of a bullishness, but it's not high probability because also we're tapping into a daily bearish. Meanwhile, on GJ, we don't have that daily bearish, and it's already having a follow through here on the hourly time frame. So we can be looking to target that upper daily bearish imbalance. And for indices being at all-time highs on ES and Nasdaq, it's all about seeing, okay, what is next? Are we going to go for liquidity, or are we going to resume again for all-time highs? On Nasdaq, we have a daily bullish imbalance, which is really interesting. So I want to see if that is going to take us to all-time highs, or if that daily bullish imbalance fails, then that could take us for a pretty nice dip of, let's say, around 2%. YM also all-time highs with a hourly bullish imbalance. Let's see if it's gonna push us higher. And DAX already starting to build a very nice long setup, getting us very close to all-time highs here. So I think we might get a fast long setup. All right. So that is from me, everybody. Hope you had a lovely and a profitable week. Let me know in the comments what are you going to be looking forward to next week. Let me know how you think that government shutdown is going to influence the market. Are there any of you viewers that have traded during the previous markets, during the previous government shutdown, and have some experience? Let me know. I wish you an amazing week ahead. Any questions, always let me know in the comments.